Welcome to Future Role Model, a podcast that praises the unconventional and redefines what it means to be a role model.
Yes.
And I have Trenton Davis in the house today.
Pew, pew, pew.
Remember when we podcasted last time? My friend Waja is coming to visit me from New York right now, and he introduced me to the hip hop air horn.
Yes.
It's an app on the phone, and last time I podcasted with Trenton, I was playing with it a bunch, and it's really, really fun for sporting games. But once you introduce a group of people to it, it just gets obnoxious because it won't stop.
Yeah, we probably should not do it in public.
But Trenton Davis is one of my closest friends and confidants and pals in comedy. We go way back, and we've done them. He's the person I've done the most podcasts with out of anybody because he taped my pilot when I was with Sideshow, and I came and did yours, and we did another one. I don't remember what.
We've done four. This is the fourth.
This is the fourth one.
This is the fourth one, and
we just
never
enjoy
talk about the same stuff.
No, I know.
We're always finding something new. It's good.
Me and Trenton we work together well, and we just we respect each other fucking hardcore.
Very much.
Trenton, we got to know each other. Where did we meet?
Well, we met here. We met in L.A.
Yeah,
this is where we met. You were running the show at the Comedy Store.
Yes, that's what it was.
A friend of a friend said, you need to meet Natasha. She's from Chicago. Yeah. And then I met you. You gave me a spot because you're so nice. And then from there, we just kicked it. And then we went from there to the tour.
Yes.
In Seattle.
We immediately went on a tour together. Immediately. And it was, it's so funny how connections work and just how things kind of loop back around. But it was when I was like kind of freshly starting to date Justin, who I'm now engaged to. Yes. And Justin just like didn't mind me going on the road with a handsome black man that I had just met.
Which I questioned from the beginning. I was like, either she's not into black guys or Justin thinks I'm gay. That's what I thought. I was like, he must think I'm gay.
Dude, he's just so
he's
cool.
He's great.
Yeah, and we had that tour, and man, it's so funny to think back on that time too, because, you know, I was just thinking back on the material that I was doing in that time, it makes me like cringe.
Me too, right? All of us. Do you know that was 2011?
It was really long ago.
11, or it may have been 12, but either way, even if it was 12, it was 6 years ago.
I think it was 11 because it was me and Justin hadn't lived together yet. We weren't living together yet.
Oh my God. That's
so long ago.
Oh my God. I can't imagine.
Oh, time.
Long. Yes.
Really dates us. Yeah. It was last night we were at our neighbors, and I've talked about this before, how I always remember time by hairstyles when we were at our neighbors. And they were like, when do you think this happened? Because we were talking about having been at Disneyland last. I've only been to Disneyland once in my life. And I was like, well, it was November of 2012 because my bangs were growing out. They were like, how is your memory so good? And I was like, hair, man.
Your hair is your timeline.
I remember my hair.
That's so good. Well, you probably should not go to Disneyland if you're planning on having kids, because once you have kids, you'll go $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you live out here. So you might as well just not go and just
as an adult, yeah.
But now if you don't want kids.
It's so expensive as an adult, too. It's like when you go to theme parks like that, you have to spend hundreds of dollars.
It's a lot of money. What I do now is I just got a pass. I just got a yearly pass for Harlan and I, and we go during the week, like Monday through Thursday.
Oh, that's smart.
And it's still packed, and you still spend a lot of money, but you break it up over the course of the month. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
I don't know.
So how have things been in Trenton land? So Trenton has a podcast called Father's Day, and I did it a couple months ago. And that was one of my favorite ones.
Oh, it was fun.
That was one of my favorite episodes of anything.
For like an hour and a half, and we cut ourselves off. We didn't stop. We just cut ourselves. It was like, all right, we got to stop.
We were just talking about a bunch of life stuff and relationship stuff, which we're good at doing because, you know, we had that one show at the Improv where we did the LOL. Yes. There's endless relationship information and material, but you are in the full throes of being out of a long-term relationship with your baby mama.
Thank God. Woo, woo.
So what is happening with that right now?
All right. So we broke up in April of last year. Was, in my opinion, official. In my opinion, it was over before that. But we'll just call it April so we don't get an argument.
You mentally
later.
broke up way before that.
Oh, I think both of us mentally checked out in 2015. I really do. I really do. But that's a whole nother. But we just stay together. And people say, and this ties in so good with role models. People say all the time, well, I'm staying for my children. My comment, having done that for 2 years, is you're not being a good role model. If you do that in itself, and I know I'm jumping the gun, and I apologize.
No, we can jump.
For those 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, Trenton was not a good role model. Not that I wasn't taking care of my family, not that I was. What I was showing her is that it's okay to be miserable.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing that you can teach a kid is that being happy, whatever that means, is so important.
Yes.
And if it means not being with somebody, then cool.
Yes. And I agree 1,000%. And there's a part that we also have to say, true greatness is going to require us to make decisions in the face of fear. So there was fear of, okay, I'm getting out of another relationship. You know, there's all this scary stuff. What if nobody else likes me? How are people going to look at me? Blah, blah, blah. A couple things. One, nobody's looking at you because they're living their own life. But when you make a decision, or me in this case, when I make a decision to not leave because of fear, what am I teaching my daughter?
Right.
And I don't want to teach her that. So 25 years from now, when some dude is beating her ass, did I subconsciously teach her stay in a bad relationship?
Right.
Did I subconsciously teach her, buckle to fear and don't leave because of fear?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a bad role model.
I completely agree.
Bad role model.
I think people, and that's the whole thing. I was getting into a conversation with some people about role models the other day, and the reason that I like being open about, mistakes and failures and those types of things is we are designed to fuck up. I mean, the better of a role model you can be is somebody who fucks up and is like, hey, I fucked up.
Yes.
And I figured it out.
Yes.
And I'm just fine.
Yes.
And that,
yes.
That's
100%.
Life is not meant to work easily.
We're in this place. We're in this place with social media and then real media where anytime somebody fucks up, we automatically say, oh, they're bad. Oh, they're a horrible person. Put them away. Well, like fire them or, And I'm not saying fuck ups like rape. That's not a fuck up. That's you trying to hurt somebody.
Right.
But I am saying any kind of, to your point, fuck up, any kind of mistake, any kind of thing that, hey, it didn't go great, doesn't mean we should banish this person into obscurity. It means, okay, great. And that's one of the many things I love about comedy is we're one of the few people that get to acknowledge our fuck ups.
Like immediately.
But we get to say them before the media gets them, so it drowns it out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's really hard for me to get embarrassed by anything. I've really never, in my life, I think I've experienced true embarrassment,
right.
like twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at a young age, I was already putting myself in situations
right.
where I just had to come clean pretty quick.
Right.
At least come clean in some sort of way.
Yeah. I mean, when we go up and when we talk about, for me, I'm doing this chunk now, which I love it. It's so fun. I'm doing this chunk about the breakup and I'm acknowledging that I cheated. I'm acknowledging that she cheated and the feelings that go along with it. So now it's not painful or embarrassing when I talk about, somebody cheated on me. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, all right, and it only happens in 98% of all other relationships.
Yep.
It's just nobody
talks about it.
Everybody wants to talk about social media and they're great. But
and people really think that cheating is some people think cheating is the worst thing. And to me, I just don't look at it that way. Should you be in a relationship if you're cheating all the time? No, but I understand that I have a lot of really good friends that are really great people that have cheated for certain reasons. And sometimes it happens for certain reasons. And I don't think that that's the worst thing you could do in a relationship. I don't
either. I just had a long 2-hour conversation last Saturday with a group of people. And they just swore, they swore on their life that monogamy was the only answer. And I said, guys, I know I'm just getting out of a relationship. I said, so it's easy to dismiss it and say he's just jaded. I said, but in the history of monogamy, has it ever really worked great? I said, has it ever really, I don't care, I don't know, a celebrity or regular person, has it ever really worked? I said, and the places where it has worked, the places where people were like, yes, I've been 100% are they happy?
People always congratulate me because my parents are still together, right? Yeah. They'll be like, "Oh, your parents are still together. Wow, congratulations." I'm like, "Really?" Because they don't talk. My mom has a shopping addiction, and my dad drinks beer alone in the living room every single night. Like, and not to knock them. Like, I love my parents, and they don't listen to podcasts, thank God, so they won't even know how to find this. But even so, they know that is true. Like.
But my question is, I think that what people do is people conflate love and monogamy. And I don't think the two, and I mean this with all my heart, especially because I've seen it happen. I think people can be in an open relationship and have just as much, if not more, love and mutual respect based on honesty than people in a monogamous relationship that never talk.
Right.
Right? Because I know people that are in a quote-unquote monogamous relationship that haven't slept in the same bedroom in 10 years. But they go to church and be like, well, we've been married for 35 years. Y'all ain't slept in the same bed for 15.
Are you laughing every day?
Right.
Like, there are certain things that I've realized, and like we've had a lot of conversations about this, and I talk about this a lot too. The engagement process has really opened my eyes because it makes you think, like, what is marriage for?
Yes.
Like, why?
Yes.
And, because I just don't have the princess mentality. I'm not like, everything's going to be wonderful. I'm like, oh, fuck. Right. Oh, shit. I'm going to be I better make sure. And it makes you really think about, like, are you never going to have feelings for somebody again?
Right.
And I don't think that that's possible. I mean, we meet a lot of really cool people in entertainment.
Yes.
And whether anything from talent crushes, which happen, or just personalities, like there's certain people that I just fucking love.
And I have a question. If you meet someone and have feelings for them, to your point, talent crush, whatever, we can't help. Sometimes there's just a connection. Does that make you a bad person?
No, you cannot help how you feel at any given moment.
Right.
You can only help what you choose to do with that.
Right.
And if you're honest about with whatever you're feeling with your partner instead of like hiding it, I think that's better than. But some things you just don't say. Yeah. Some things they're just inside of your own heart.
So how do you have that, especially now? Because now I'm 100% single, not whatever. But now I've said to myself, okay, you go into a relationship now, and it sounds like I'm saying I want an open relationship. And I'm not necessarily saying I want an open relationship. What I'm saying is monogamy is not as important as other things. Right. Matter of fact, monogamy is way down on the fucking list.
I think with everybody, you just have to, and I've said this even with Justin, I'm like, if I'm going to be a wife, if I'm going to actually end up married, I will be a really fucking good wife. Okay. But does that mean that I expect things to go? So I'm not a linear person. Like, I don't look at my life in acts. Yes. I kind of have always looked at my life in like episodes. Okay. I'm like, today's a new episode. What the fuck's going to happen today? Right. Who's in the writer's room and the great beyond, like controlling my destiny today? Yes. And I kind of like being freeball like that. And, people are like, oh, well, what'll happen with you guys in the future? I'm like, who knows? Yeah. He could be on set on meet somebody that he thinks is amazing. Maybe I'll think she's amazing too. Maybe we'll have like I don't fucking know. But I'm just open to, I really am open to just things.
And this is going to sound conspiracy theorist. I think there is from the architect, to your point, whoever's in that writer's room, I think there's a need for people to believe in marriage so that they can control people. Yes. Marriages, and people are like, whatever. Marriage in itself is a form of control, because this is the thing. If you get married, I know there's a higher likelihood that you're going to have children. I know there's a higher likelihood that you're going to buy a house. You buying a house and going $500,000 in debt. I now know that you have to have a job.
It all feeds the system.
It all feeds the system. You got to have a job. And so I can control you. And that's the same thing. I mean, don't remember, same thing with healthcare. But so that's why they didn't like, what Republicans didn't like about healthcare was young people didn't have to be on it. Right? Or young people could opt out. And you couldn't control young people because they don't have families. So they're like, fuck it, I'll just take a chance with my health. And all of that goes together. I know this is the whole big conspiracy theory, but my point is, like, the whole monogamy marriage thing, it came from somewhere. Because we weren't naturally, 3,000 years ago, people weren't like, hey, let's just be one person.
Right.
Right. It was community type deal.
Well, and that's why we have like so many, like we have so many other like couple friends and like we all hang out with each other.
Yes.
And, a lot of my girlfriends and guy friends are still flirty with other people. And it's not weird because it's just like everybody you need like a lot of people to like fulfill you. One person isn't just it's not enough. Gonna do it.
Yes.
And I, like as far as like me feeding back into the economy, I'm like, would I rather buy a house or would I rather go on like 5 dope vacations for the year?
Right.
Vacations.
Right.
Because I'm so experiential based.
Yes.
So I'd always rather experience something than have something.
Right. Oh,
physical.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Do you watch Sense8 on Netflix?
No.
Oh, it's so good. You got to watch it. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
But it's like these group of people, and I don't want to tell you about it, but what you were saying sounds like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we've known each other for years, but we haven't really talked a lot in the past because it doesn't come up amongst friends very often. Like who you looked up to that got you into comedy, that you kind of looked up to in entertainment period as you were growing up.
That's a great question. And this again ties right back into judging people, looking at people in 2018 looking at people in 1980 from a 2018 perspective. And so I'm prefacing that to say Cosby.
Yeah.
Cosby.
I remember my grandpa used to play it for me upstairs in the attic, and I remember it vividly. I was making like Play-Doh dolls, watching Bill Cosby, and my grandpa was chain smoking.
Yes.
And that's what I did.
It was a huge deal. The Cosby Show, Different World were a huge deal. Every Thursday, it was pizza night at our house. And it was, I had a older brother, older sister. So 3 of us, my mom and dad, we would all be in the living room at the same time watching TV. And that's what we would do.
He was an icon.
He's an icon.
Here's the thing. Did he do something terrible? Yes, he did it a lot.
Yeah.
He did a lot of very, very bad things.
Yes.
I wish he would have been caught sooner than being an old man that's now just getting caught. It feels like he just got to live his whole life anyway.
Right.
But just putting the situation of Cosby into a separate box for a moment.
Yes.
Let us ignore that for a moment and remember that he's still an icon.
And influenced an entire generation. He did
influence a lot of comedy. He influenced a lot of... So, I mean, yes, he did terrible, terrible things.
Yes.
But it doesn't take away the fact that he was a staple of the 80s and the 90s.
I agree. And I'm not saying always and in every case, but I think, again, those people that are phenomenally great are often tragically flawed.
Yes.
Right?
The more great, I mean, because, think about all of the opportunities that came and the power.
Yes.
I'm not excusing it by any means.
No.
But I'm saying, people don't realize what comes with that level of fame.
Yeah.
And that level of iconism.
Yeah,
what the fuck is the word for
being an icon?
But it doesn't make anything okay. But I always try to keep things separate as far as how I respect somebody's craft versus how I look at them as a human.
And let's look at a couple things to piggyback on that. Let's say you or I got that famous next year. Let's say we got as famous as Bill Cosby, but next year.
For good reasons.
For good reasons.
Not the bad ones.
Yeah, not because we raped you. But my point is, if we got that famous, we're also living in a time where we can have counseling, and it wouldn't be crazy for us to go to counseling.
Right.
And so we could have help dealing with that iconism, right?
That's a new word, by the way, I've coined.
Yeah. But in the 70s, there was nobody to help you prepare to be famous. So all of a sudden, you go from a little poor black kid with XYZ brothers and sisters to being the most popular person on the planet.
For sure.
At the time. On the planet. He was like George Clooney. He was like Brad Pitt and them of his day.
Yeah.
Right? And the difference was he was being seen on TV every week when a time where you didn't have YouTube, didn't have blah, blah, blah. So everybody was watching, black, white, green, or yellow, everybody was watching the Cosby Show.
For sure.
And so to have that level of power, of course it goes to your, and again, I'm not making it okay, but understand, he did the Tonight Show and explained on the Tonight Show how he gave women Quaaludes.
When?
I can find it on YouTube.
It's an old Tonight Show?
Yeah. And so my point for saying that is, or like Letterman.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Holy
so
shit.
So my point, it was so much a part of culture that he could talk about it on Tonight Show. I'm not making it up. I'm gonna find it, and then you post it when you.
I will. Holy,
it's a big thing. He was talking about giving women Quaaludes.
That's crazy.
So imagine how comfortable not only he was, but the universe. Nobody saw that and was like, "Oh, he's raping women." They were like, "Oh yeah, famous people give Quaaludes." Now we're looking at it in 2018, and we're saying, "Oh, that's messed up."
Well, now people are like finally people are starting to get their shit together and realize that people, like bad people, nobody has to work with them anymore.
Right.
I feel like people are getting it, and they're like, they're trying to.
I think I was thinking about it just yesterday getting off the elevator. No, this morning. And this is sad. We got to switch subjects because it's getting bad. But so USC has this thing going on now, this big scandal at University of Southern California. And like 40 women were molested by the campus physician, campus gynecologist. The campus gynecologist.
Ew.
It's huge. It's huge. Ew. And the guy's like 80 now. And so he forced him to retire, maybe 70 something. And so all these women are coming out. And I was thinking in my head, I said, you know what? Men haven't changed, which is the problem. The problem is men. But women have evolved. Mm-hmm. Women from the 50s have evolved from being a housewife or whatever to now I can have my own dreams, my own goals, and I don't need you. And the problem with men is we didn't evolve. We didn't.
Interesting perspective.
Men didn't. And so Chris Rock tells a story and tells a joke, and he said, black people have come a long way. He's like, no, the fuck we hadn't. He said, we've always wanted freedom. White folk have come a long way. He said they went from owning people to saying, okay, now you can have your own freedom. Well, so I'm saying men need to make that same change.
Right.
Women don't, I'm not saying they don't need to change, but women don't need to grow. You've always wanted to have your own independence. But men need to grow and be like, oh, she's not an object. Or she's more than just this. She's not just meant to be conquered or something like that.
Yeah.
Men need to change. And the problem with that is there's a part of society that tells men if you change, you're becoming a pussy.
Right.
There's a part of society that says, no, we have to treat women a certain way because it means your manhood. And men are fighting that. But as a man... I mean, unless
you live in Silver Lake, then you're a man if you listen to records and know poetry.
Right. Right? But like where you're from in Wisconsin and where I'm from in North Carolina, there's still places in both of those cities where if we say, as a guy, I'm going to counseling, or if I say, I just really respect your feelings. They're like, what are you, a fucking pussy? What is wrong with you?
I was, the last time I was home in Wisconsin, granted, I was going through something. I just lost a friend, and I was home drinking in some podunk town at this tiny bar. And this like bar owner came up to me, and was like, he was with like two crackheads. And
this is a nice bar.
Right? It was, it was in Wisconsin. And he tried to like come on to me and then offer me like a bartending job. He thought I was just like a cute chick hanging out there.
Right.
And I was drunk, and I just turned and looked at him, and I was like, I'm above your pay grade. And he didn't know how to handle that response.
What did he do?
I was like, no, and I'm above your pay grade. And he was like, what? Because he just probably assumed I was. And I thought it was really funny. I wish I had it on camera, because he was just like, Yeah. That's probably been his move for like so long, because it works in the center of the country in certain places.
I would agree.
Where like, I have just balls from, having to work in comedy and living in Chicago alone, and
New York and LA.
Yeah. So I'll just like tell somebody, no,
fuck yourself. Right.
You're like, go away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
unless they seem like somebody I want to be friends with, then I would never speak to them like that. But yeah, instantly, if I don't like somebody's vibe, I'm just like, no.
Yeah. It's a deal. It's a thing. Men are having to get better, and I think that process is slow, but men are having to get better.
Yeah.
But whatever. Sure. So anyway, I'm sorry. So yes, Bill Cosby, I did all that to say Bill Cosby. I was my role model.
We had to do a little bit of backstory.
We did.
To make sure people understand, not Bill Cosby as of 2018.
Right. 1988 Bill Cosby was my role model.
When he still had the sweater and dignity.
Yes. and Def Jam and stuff was hot in the early 90s. And so I loved Def Jam. I was a bit disconnected because my high school was all white and my surroundings were all white. And so I knew that those stories that the comics were telling on Def Jam, while funny, weren't my stories.
Right.
And that's why Cosby resonated with me, because those stories that he told were much closer to mine. The stories of both parents, the stories of grandparents and kids, those stories were closer to
and success. Like he was a doctor.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like there was, you know, there was that air of like, we can do that.
Yes.
We can have that.
We can have
life.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would have gone to college either way, but A Different World definitely made the idea of going to college appealing. And so all of that, most of his projects were my comedic role models. Was probably.
But what point did you know you wanted to get into comedy?
I had no fucking clue.
You don't remember?
No, I do know, but I didn't. It wasn't as a child. Like you knew as a child, didn't you?
I knew I wanted to get into something humor related or entertainment related, but I was afraid to admit it for a while. And I would do you know, theater and choir, but I didn't really tell people that was an aspiration of mine.
Yeah.
Until I got to college, and then I was like, this is what I want to do as a career.
So you were in college 19 to 23 or whatever?
Yeah, 18 to 20. I left at age 20.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to be something great.
Yes.
I more saw myself like P. Keaton. You remember this guy? This is bad. The guy with Parkinson's, Michael J. Fox.
Oh yeah.
On Family Ties.
Yeah.
Remember, he used to always wear a tie, and he wanted to be a stockbroker or whatever. That was kind of me. Like I was like, no, I'm going to be a CEO, and I'm going to move up and do corporate America. And so I knew I was funny, but I never thought comedy was a career. And then I did blah blah blah. We talked about it. I got the degree and got the job, and then I was in it and was like, oh, this is shit.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. And if I have to do this for the next 50 years, even if I make $10 million, I'm going to jump off a bridge.
Money is not exciting if you're unhappy. It's just not.
It's not.
And, you know, like, and I tell people, like, the struggle in Chicago was some of my funnest time. I was so creative.
Yes.
Like, my first month in Chicago, I got a job right away at a really douchey sports bar near where I lived at Clark and Diversey.
Yeah.
And I went and did one training shift, and then I went to them and I was like, I think I'm better suited for the other side of the bar. Oh. And I didn't show up to any more training shifts, and I just became a regular.
Really?
But I didn't have any money saved really. So I had to find ways to like get freebies. So I one night I went to Yaxie's. It's this late night bar. It's 4 a.m. bar across the street from where I used to live. I got my hair wet. I went to Yaxie's in a towel. My friends in Chicago will remember this. I went in a towel. I just hid my flip phone and my keys in my car because I had a key car pad, like a keypad on the side. Just went there with nothing. And I was like, you guys remember me from the other night, right? I'm locked out of my house. And they were like, come in. We feel so bad for you. And they bought me a pitcher of beer. So I sat in a towel with wet hair and drank a pitcher of beer. And that was my creative way to get something for fucking free.
You were the best.
And I could have just done cute girl stuff. But instead I was like, no, I'm just going to be like sloppy and gross about this.
I'm going to go to things.
And I had like underwear on underneath it, but nobody knew. They just thought I was in a fucking towel. And like, these German guys were in from out of town. And they were like, that's funny. And I was like, it works.
Yeah, see,
but it makes you creative when you're struggling.
It does. That does make you creative.
Fun.
Oh, I agree.
It was so much fun.
I 100% agree. I think there should be a time in everybody's life, maybe 20s to 30s, where you try a bunch of different stuff, where you experience and enjoy being broke. I think all of those are periods where we grow and we learn who we are.
Yeah.
So I didn't find out that I love comedy and that it was a real passion or gift until probably late 20s, right? 27, 20. And then I know it was good timing for me because then I could also was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And Chicago, in my opinion, and we're biased, but it's the best city to start out.
Yeah.
Because there were so many different rooms at the time. And it was before the 40 people at an open mic time period. Like I was there when it was like 10 people at an open mic.
Yeah.
We all got 5 or 7 minutes, which is unheard of
epic.
now. Yeah. Because now your open mic is 3 minutes, 2 minutes.
Yep.
Like, but then I was getting 5 to 7, and I could do the Burbs and do what's that place? God, I can't remember.
Jokes and Notes?
No, the other suburbs like in God Almighty, Naperville.
Oh yeah.
Like I could do Naperville and do that one, and then I could do the North Side, which is where you are, Clark and then I could do the South Side and do Jokes and Notes.
You could swoop the whole thing.
Yeah, and then
nice.
riddles. So I could do the black and the white side and learn both styles.
I had no idea. It was so cool being introduced to the comedy scene in Chicago.
Yes.
Because I was already in the improv and sketch scene with Second City.
Okay.
When I decided I wanted to do stand-up, I went to a place called Mad River, and they had this like side bar with a stage, and I started running like a weekly mic just to get to know the stand-up comics.
Yeah.
And I had like 2 kind of connections into the stand-up comedy world.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever met Danny Callis. He's like a staple of Chicago.
Of course.
So I had never met him before. He came to my mic. And afterwards, you know, I'm cleaning up or whatever, and he's like, "You want to come to the other mics, Tosh?" And I was like, "Other mics?" Right. And we got in his van, and it was
and of course he had a van.
It was like I drove into like my future obsession with comedy. Like we went and hit all these other mics, and I was like, oh my God, there's a scene.
Yes.
And I had no idea that existed, and it was so awesome.
Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with Danny?
I mean, every time I see him, I'm like, I love the guy.
Yeah,
but we don't talk, you know, we don't talk on a regular.
Are they still doing Comedians You Should Know?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's doing really strong. I think so.
It's probably one of the strongest in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been going on for at least a decade now.
No, and he's amazing. And he was like, you know, one of the first like very, I'm going to take you under my wing and show you Chicago comedy because not everybody's that way. Some people don't want you in on their turf, but it wasn't like that with like him and Joe Kilgallen and like just some really awesome people that were like, hey, this is the
Joe
comedy
is great.
world. Like
Marty DeRosa.
All those guys. Fuck, man, that was such a fun time. And it was so cool to realize that there was a world.
Yes.
You know.
You know what's sad? I mean, it's good because nothing lasts forever, but what a little bit sad for me is I go back to Chicago now once or twice a year, depending on the dates. And I always play the Comedy Bar, which I love. Shout out to the Comedy Bar. You treat me good. But I never now make time to go to the independent shows.
Yeah. And it's tough because I always play Laugh Factory when I go there. And the one thing I really miss is when I lived in Chicago, I don't know if this existed, but Jack Calhoun, I don't think he does comedy anymore, but he lived in an artist loft.
Okay.
With like 5 other people. It was an awesome loft on Lincoln.
Okay.
And they had a room with a stage and a bar.
Wow.
In their loft.
Wow.
So they would host Wednesday night open mics, and it would go from like 8 p.m. to like 5 in the morning because it was somebody's house.
What?
And so, and they couldn't sell anything legally, so they would just
take donations.
Donation.
Yeah.
Was $1 a beer, $1 a drink. It was phenomenal. And you get up and do 4 minutes, and if you stayed all night, you could generally get a second set in.
Yeah.
So everyone would just hang out. And it was like, and I remember taking friends there that weren't comics, and they were like, this is what you get to do. And I was like, isn't it awesome? And everything's $1. I get drunk here for $10.
Right, yeah.
And do comedy. My life is amazing.
It's amazing how what's the word I'm looking for? What we want out of it, actually, what we want probably stays the same, which is we just want mutual respect and to make money doing what we love to do.
Yes, 100%.
But our stages change, right? I mean, you do St. Bart's, right? You're doing I'm doing the Bahamas.
You just played the Bahamas for 2 weeks.
We're not doing the little dive bar, even though I miss the dive bar.
Yeah, I mean, it was part of the come up.
Yes,
you know, and that's what's fun about it, the progression. And it like I was saying with Paul when I came into the studio before we started. Comedy keeps you humble because you play a big, you know. Last weekend I was at the Brea Improv. Every night it was like anywhere
300,
from
500, 600 people.
Yeah, every night.
Yeah.
And then, you know, where am I going to be at this Sunday? I'm in Van Nuys.
Right.
And it's probably going to be like 25 people. Yeah. You know, it's just like, that's just
it is.
That's the roller coaster we go.
And you know what also is great though, and probably musicians have the same thing, is there's someone like Kevin Hart, and he does a stadium of 60,000 people. Mm-hmm. And he'll also turn around and go do a little bar in Philly, like Helium, for 200 people, just because he likes that feeling. Mm-hmm. So you do the big one to make our money and to pay for our bills, but then we do the small one for the love of
to be able to make eyes with everybody.
Yes,
because when you're in a club where you can actually see everybody, it's a
connection.
It is.
And especially if you kill it and you don't know any of these people and they're just like, I connected with you guys for a strong, solid 12 minutes. And they were in it. Like I just came back and did San Francisco last week and I just did a pop-in set. And again, same thing, 12 people, 15 people. Mm-hmm. And every joke I'm connecting like this. And it was just great. It was just, it's a feeling like no other, especially when you're working on new material. It's that tightrope.
Exactly. And I remember when I did my first podcast with you and we talked about kind of your epiphany moment when you survived the car or the plane crash.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that. So it's long story short, and I'm reminded of that, not every day, but at least every year, several times a year, that life is short.
Yes.
Right. And we never know when is the time. Right. And so take advantage of it. And I think about that when I'm thinking about where I'm circling back around to. I said my ex and I knew it was over in 2015. Look at all the time we wasted from 15 to 17.
Yeah.
And that's not good. And I'm not suggesting that people just automatically, the minute something goes bad, get out of a relationship. What I'm saying is be honest with yourself, be your own role model maybe, and say, even if this can work, do I want it to work? Right. And I knew deep down, I didn't want it to work with this person. I knew that deep down.
Yeah.
And so get out of it. Be your own role model. Buck up. Put on your big boy pants or big girl's pants and be like, all right, I'm going to leave. And yes, it's going to be scary. Yes, it's going to be a transition. But on the other side of it, now I've been out of it over a year. And this has, again, been the best year of my life over the last 5 years. This year's been the best. Things are going great. Shows are going great. And that's like, well, that could have happened. You could have started that process in 2015, Trenton, you know, but you didn't. And so that's what it taught me. Not that she's a bad person, not that I'm a bad person, but what it taught me is be honest with yourself and make a decision quick.
Yeah.
Make that decision.
Yeah, because staying in limbo is not fun.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Wondering what you're going to do is like I wish I was a little bit better at that with certain life things.
Yeah.
Because I just, I'm always so good at that with career stuff. And then with other things, I'm just like, I don't know.
Well, it's a fear. We all have it. As a role model, hopefully for my daughter, I'm going to have these, not obviously now because she's 6, but I'm going to have these consistent conversations with her growing up. Like, don't ever let fear that you're going to let daddy down stop you from doing anything.
Right.
Really. I mean, don't do crime and drugs. Right. But like, if you're like, I want to quit my job and move to wherever, fucking quit your job. Like, your daddy will never be upset at that.
Yep.
Never. Right. Like, whatever the rest of the world expects of you to do, don't worry about it because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing I was always grateful about my parents is they just didn't ever put the pressure on me to do a certain type of job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people get financial support from their families. I got like motivational support.
Yeah, that's good though.
Not in like cheerleader type of way, but they just they love what I do.
Yes.
And they're just like, whatever you want to do, kid.
Yeah.
Like
go at it.
Because they know I just do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I think they just like don't even try.
Who was your comedic role model when you got jumped in it?
Well, I've talked about this before, but I Love Lucy. I used to watch
really?
I Love Lucy. I have a doll in my house that I keep up.
Really?
Yeah, I loved, and that's why I got into sketch and improv because I was like, oh, I love that pretty women can make weird faces and stuff.
Yes.
And I didn't really have a role model in stand-up.
Yeah.
Definitely not a woman role model.
Okay.
Coming into comedy.
Right.
My role model in stand-up would have been Mitch Hedberg.
Okay.
And when I first started comedy, oh my God, if you were to dig up archives of me doing my first sets in Chicago, they were all one-liners. How funny is that to think about? Because for anybody that's listening that doesn't know I'm a storyteller. I'm a full-on storyteller.
Yeah.
And all of it's pretty much based in 100% honesty, minus, you punch stuff up and stuff sometimes.
We take it to the extreme, but it's still based in honesty.
Yeah, it's based in honesty. But yeah, my first, it's so funny to think.
I love watching you laugh at yourself.
It's so funny to think. I think one of the first open mics I ever went to in Chicago, I think I walked out and I said, "Any deaf people in the audience?"
It's actually funny.
It killed, and I thought I was like, "Oh, that was clever."
Yes.
But it's and I never said that again in my life. But it was like the 4-minute. I was basically going through my thought books, which are going to be my book one day called Future Role Model.
Okay.
But and making my material out of those, which was all one-liners.
Yeah.
Like one of my famous thought book jokes that I wrote when I was 15 was fat people should be called skinny because they have more skin than skinny people.
Right.
And I thought that made sense.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was like jokes like that.
Yes.
That were like dumb and stonery.
Tell people what you mean when you say your thought book, because I think it's so important.
My thought book. So I started thought books. I started my thought books when I was 14. I was a student ambassador in Europe, and we had to journal every day.
Really?
And I had never had the opportunity or the desire to do that.
Right.
So I didn't realize it, but every single night, we were paired with different roommates, and I was writing like 15 pages
every night.
And word got out to the chaperones. There's 4 chaperones on the trip that she sits up and writes for like 3 hours every night. They couldn't wait to read my journals. Well, I wasn't writing about like architecture and like history like a lot of the kids were. I was writing about interactions with people in the country.
Yes.
And like language barriers and pranks we were playing on each other on the bus while we were driving around Europe.
Yes.
And weird roommate things.
Yeah.
And funny things. And so they collected our journals like 2 weeks in. And I got in big trouble because I was pranking people. We were pranking people all the time. And they were like almost going to kick me off the trip. And I had to argue my way to stay in.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, I remember telling them, people are more interesting to me than a building.
Right.
So that's what I want to write about.
Yes.
And I don't think that there's a problem with that. And they were like, you have a point. And then they let me stay and they let me keep writing what I wanted to.
Really?
And then I never stopped writing funny moments, funny quotes.
Yes. Did you have to stop pranking?
Never stopped pranking. Never stopped pranking.
Never stopped pranking. That's such a good story.
But yeah, I mean, and so I started my thought books when I was 15, which are just like little tiny notebooks. And I have them in like a fireproof safe in my house. I have like 7 volumes. I even gave one to my friend Teddy, who's like one of the funniest people I've ever known. She lives in San Diego. But we grew up together, and she went and studied abroad in Scotland for 6 months. So I gave one thought book to her, and she wrote all her funny ideas in it.
Wow.
I basically, all my friends kind of had their own one that they would like collect.
Yeah.
So, so it just ended up being this like amalgamation of stories and quotes and all this stuff. And I think it's really good for people to journal in that way because it doesn't make you have to write. It just forces you to pay attention to a situation.
Yeah.
It was before we had Snapchat and all that. So instead of being at a party and pausing to take a video, I would be at a party pausing to journal something in the corner.
Right.
And it was a better way to remember something. Yeah. Because it doesn't take you out of the situation.
Yeah. It actually brings you tighter into it because you want to see things. Yeah. I think that's phenomenal.
And when did you start writing comedy first? Do you remember that point?
When I started doing comedy, I would go home and write what I thought was fun. This is the turning point for me. Is there was a time, and I think it happens to all comedians, where you write what you think is funny, right? I don't know, black people do this, white people do that. You write what you think is funny, but you're just retelling what has happened, and people think that's funny on some level. Then you get to a point where, at least for me, you get older and you have a voice about certain things. Politics, Bill Cosby, NFL players, kneeling. And then you say, okay, how do I get that point across and still be funny?
Yeah.
And that, to me, for me, is the art, because now I'm trying to take something that's not inherently funny. Like trying to figure out the football players kneeling and the other half of America feeling like they're disrespecting the flag because they're kneeling. How do I make this funny, get my point across? And if, by the way, those people that think they're bad, if they're listening, get them to look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So my writing at the core is from a perspective of using comedy to teach.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and you're so good at that.
Thank you.
You're such a good joke writer.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. You know how we always feel like we're not?
Oh, I know.
I feel like, God almighty. But,
I know. There are plenty of days where I feel like that too. I'm like, fuck, this could be so much funnier. Why can't I get it? But then one day it'll just click.
It'll click. And I watch other people, and you say, and I'm like, oh, that's so great. That's so great. Why can't I be that way? And then if somebody, like, you'll say that to me, and I'm like, oh, we are both phenomenally talented. It just comes out different, and we see ourselves, we see all the flaws, while the other person sees the good stuff, right?
Well, and I think we're both like this, but like I'm very open to like both criticism or anything, as long as it's constructive. I feel like there's a way to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I love being corrected, whether it's in the gym or whether somebody comes up to me and they're like, ooh, this didn't hit, but maybe if you try this, I'll always...
You'll connect with that.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking comedy. Like, if you have an idea that's better,
you'll take
tell me.
I will to a degree. And this is going to sound arrogant. It has to come from... If it comes from
genuine.
You, I get it.
No, it does have to feel genuine to you, but like, there's only like 2 jokes that I have that somebody else kind of gave me an idea for a tag for. Right. And then I kind of took it and made it my own.
But for me, it has to come from a comedian, because I feel like non-comedians always tell you everything. Well, you should do this. I'm like, fuck.
No. That's the worst. That is the hands down worst.
Yeah, they're the worst. That is the worst.
But yeah, Trenton did survive a plane crash, which is crazy. And if on my website, nphcomedy.com, the link to that episode is there, so you can listen to that.
I need to bring that on stage.
From Life Accomplished. But that was my former podcast pilot. That
pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew. But his story is really cool. And I remember you saying that when you survived that, you were like, I guess I'm just going to do whatever I want to do from like here on out.
Yeah.
Because, whoa.
Yeah, well, I remember headed on the way down. Again, I'm not going to retell the story, see it on the podcast. But what I do remember on the way down was thinking to myself,
fuck.
Yeah. Like, if this is it, what did you really do? And then the other part, and then there was another kind of voice that was like, yo, you're not going to die. You're going to be hurt, but you're not going to die. I have something prepared for you. I got something in store for you. And so from that point on, I knew that it couldn't be life in a cubicle.
Yeah.
Right now, I'd be lying if I tell you I left that plane crash, quit my job, and everything has been smooth sailing since. It hasn't. And that's what I think the movie doesn't do a great job doing. That's why I love when you are writing every day and releasing books and releasing content, because I think what we together are trying to do is, in a 2-hour movie, Will Smith goes from being broke to working at the place in pursuit of happiness and being the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so people that aren't chasing their dream really, really believe that the process of chasing their dream is short.
Right.
They really believe. They don't realize Natasha's been chasing this dream and actively working on it for 20 years.
Right.
So if you pop next year, to them, they say, oh, we just saw it. I'm not your friend.
She just
came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see, for the last 6 years, NBC has known who we are.
Yeah.
Right? They don't see that.
Yeah.
And so I think what's so great about podcasts and what's so great about now we're able to create our own original content is now we can show them that. And hopefully that makes the more fearful people or less outgoing people say, hey, I can chase a dream, and it's okay if I don't make it in a year.
Yeah, I had this, and this is a good thing about the role model thing, because I do openly talk about my mistakes and my flaws, and I openly am slightly put together, slightly messy, and I like that combination.
I love that.
You know,
that's a great way to put it.
You can be put together as a human being,
yes, but
also be a mess at the same time, and that is totally okay. And this girl had, I don't know her, but she had commented on something of mine, I guess, like, maybe a year or so ago. And was like, I want to be a stand-up comic when I grow up. She was a young girl.
Okay.
And I had wrote, create a mic or like write every day. I kind of just wrote like something. She messaged me yesterday night when I was laying in bed at 10 p.m. and sent me a screenshot of what I wrote to her. And she wrote, Dear Natasha Pearl Hansen, I don't know if you remember me, but I was that girl who commented on your post saying that when I grow up, I want to be a comedian. I want to thank you so much for answering my comment and giving me advice. It means a lot. And I just wanted to give you an update on what I've been doing the last 2 to 3 months. I took your advice and got a journal and started writing stand-up. And I've also did stand-up for my mom, and she loved it. I want to thank you for your advice. You're a really good mentor and role model. And I write stand-up every morning. And she's like young.
Good for you.
And I was like, see, you can be openly messy and still have an impact. Because I think a lot of people hear that you want to get into entertainment and they're like, don't do that. You're going to waste your time. I tell everybody, I'm always like, if you want to do it, do it.
Do it.
There is room for everybody.
There is room, especially now
and
with YouTube.
There needs to be every voice possible.
Yes.
I mean, there's a voice for everyone. Somebody will connect with you.
Yes.
You know, if you're not good or you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And,
you know, if it's not for you, you'll figure it out.
And not only that, it may take you somewhere else.
Yeah. Or you might get into stand-up and realize, oh, I'm not a great stand-up, but I love production.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you'll find another.
Look at Mark Maron. And this is no dig on his stand-up, but he was doing stand-up. It took him into podcasting. And now podcasting is bigger than his stand-up.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
Yeah. But then now he's got the show, Glow, and then he's got, you know, his stand-up still. He does exactly what he wants to do.
What he wants to do.
Joe Rogan's a good example too.
A great example.
Because he's turned down so many gigs because he just loves doing the podcast and doing stand up and like
UFC.
Yeah,
that's it. And then spending time with his family.
Yeah, and he can just choose to do what he wants.
Yes,
without being like overburdened by all the. Because you know when you get that big, people offer you shit all the time. Because even now, I feel like we get offered stuff a lot, and you just have to kind of ignore.
Not enough. If you're listening, feel free to offer me more.
But I get like people reach out to me all the time to be a part of stuff where I just have to look at it and be like, this. I don't have time for this one. Mm-hmm. You know,
I'm with you. I said, I think you and I were talking. I want to do less and get paid more because I'm so busy. I want to look. I've been doing for stand up now. Oh God, I don't know, 14 years, right? And I've been at a point. I know we got to get ready to wrap it up, but I've been at a point where I've been doing 200 and some shows a year for at least for the last 10.
Yeah, which is
that's a lot,
ton.
Right? So now I'm like, I want to do less. Mm-hmm. I'm good at it, and now I'm headlining and getting paid more. So I'm like, this is the truth. And then we can go to whatever, and then we're done.
Yeah, no, we don't.
2019. I want to do less than 5 club dates. And when I say club date, like all week.
Yeah.
I'll be right like Thursday through Sunday. I don't want to do them anymore. I don't. Like I'll do the Comedy Store and Laugh Factory all day long, Monday through Wednesday. But for weekend gigs, and I'm putting this out here because Natasha and I are going to work together and we're going to make this work. Well, I just want to do small venues. And when I say small venues, 300 seaters to 500 seaters, performing arts center at any place in America. That's what I want. I don't want to be at the Chuckle Hut from Thursday through Sunday. I want me and Natasha to go into a place and we do a private comedy gig for 500 people.
Yeah.
$20 a ticket. That's $10,000. And we split that $10,000 right down the middle. We leave that week and we both got $5,000 in our pocket.
Well, and that's the thing is like you have to be more creative. Like what I've been trying to set up in the Caribbean. Yes. Like we're gonna get there, but it was so cool to do the St. Croix gig I just did because I didn't tour with anybody else this time. Yeah. I didn't have a host. Like there's not comics around
an
island.
It was just you.
So I just got up. I did set up my own mic that they had, and I introduced myself.
Coming to the stage.
Yeah, and then I basically like told them like, it's the Caribbean. We've all been drinking beer all day. Like, let's just have a nice time.
Nice.
And I did my stand-up, and then I did like storytelling about the Caribbean.
Yes.
And did jokingly, I did a Q&A at the end, and everybody ate it up.
Yes.
So I filled like a little over an hour, and it was fun and it was different. And I was like, you can do. With shows that you're in charge of, you can do a lot of interesting things now. You don't have to like you could do 45 minutes of stand up and then you could close it out with a panel like that show that we did at the Improv that we ran.
Yes.
Was really fun to do stand up and then go into a panel.
Yes.
Because people get to know you from your jokes and then they get to know you from you just talking like a human being.
I agree. And I have a phenomenal idea. We're not going to talk about it now.
Yeah.
But I have a phenomenal idea for that. For you and I, 2019 to go on tour.
So, okay. All right. Yes. Me and Trenton, I can't wait to tour with this man again.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be good. We're going to take over the world. But if we fly in small planes, we're going to make sure they're very safe.
Yes. Or just give me a parachute. Just give me a parachute. I'm good. As long as I have a parachute.
We'll go practice some parachute landings.
Yes.
I have a friend that's a base jumper. Maybe she could teach us some stuff.
I'm game.
But yeah, I mean, what would you say, what would you say is your end goal?
Oh, that's easy. My end goal is, so I want to be famous enough where my peers respect me. And again, I can go into any city in America and get 1,000 people to come out and watch me. Mm-hmm. Any city. And not a million, not 10,000, 1,000 people. Because 1,000 people, $50 a ticket is $50,000 a show. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's that. I want to be able to do what I love, which are these 4 or 5 things. Fatherhood, stand-up comedy, writing and acting in like a series, and writing and acting in a movie. And the last one is public speaking, like positive, that kind of public speaking.
Yes, I could totally see you doing that.
I remember, and like I said, I'm not going to be long-winded. I remember seeing a public speaker named Ralph Mitchell when I was in middle school, and I still remember him to this day. And I want to have that sort of impact. I don't want to be a teacher and be in school all day because I'd fucking kill one of these kids.
Yeah.
That's probably politically incorrect nowadays with the school shooting. It would be a hard time for me to be a teacher every day, but I would love to do 4 or 5 public speaking engagements a year.
Yeah.
Maybe 10, one a month.
Yeah, and those can be really, really lucrative and fun.
And fun.
I'm planning one back in Chicago and planning one in Miami through 2 different friends. But workshops for women in comedy that don't just talk about the stand-up portion, but the business side of it as well.
Yes.
Because, Trenton and I both know, on the surface, I'll make it look like, everything's just easy breezy and I just get to drink all day, which is definitely true too. Like I definitely, I'm a 50-50 person and I balance pretty fucking well my hard work with my playtime. But I had like tonight, for example, I'm meeting with a girlfriend who's a producer with a network because I told her over drinks a couple weeks ago, I said, I want a mentor.
Yes.
I want a mentor who's an amazing boss woman showrunner.
Nice.
Because I'm pitching series. And when I do sell 1 or all 3 that I'm currently pitching,
right.
I want people to know that I can fucking do all of it.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And so,
awesome.
But if you take control in that way and you are knowledgeable of all the parts of the industry, then when you get opportunities, you're ready for them and you don't let things fall flat on their face.
Heck yeah. One of the best situations that had to me, all right, one of the best situations that have had happen, good and bad at the exact same time. It was like eating sweet and sour sauce. Was I made it to the NBC Stand Up for Diversity finals and got to do the meetings and stuff the next day. And the next day, every single one were like, you are great at stand up. What else are you doing?
Yeah.
And I had nothing.
You didn't have, and
I was like, what do you mean what else? It fucks you.
If you get seen too soon, it fucks you. Not that you're not too soon for comedy because you're amazing.
Yeah. But they want to know what else you're doing.
Yeah.
And having said that, what I will tell anybody that, because a lot of people now ask me because they know I did really well, they say, what would you suggest? And I say, have a packet of shit ready.
Yeah.
Have a packet of shit. When you have your meeting, walk in with like, this is one show, this is another show, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I learned the lesson. I'm not upset that it happened. I'm glad I learned the lesson because this is the thing. I can go into any NBC Center for Diversity now. I can enter in, and I don't even have to enter. I can go in and email the one right person and say, I have all these ideas. I want to meet with you for 30 minutes, and I'll get a meeting.
Yeah.
Right? So she told me the password, right? She told me what I got to do. Now, me and you working together, we got to be ready to be like, all right, this is what we got.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah.
Pick one.
And that's the whole thing is and everything that I'm currently pitching is from a different part of my voice.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right, this network is looking for something like this. Here's this one.
Yeah.
I don't bother people with shit that I know it doesn't fit their network.
Right.
But certain anyway, it's basically what it comes down to it is bust your ass, drink beer and be funny and hang out with really good people.
Yes.
That's what I love about having a podcast because I won't have a shitty human being on here. By that, I mean, like there's people in comedy that I really believe in that I really like as people.
Right.
And now I know so many of them there's just no shortage of really great people that I want other people to know.
I'm with you. Yes, I'm with you.
Anybody I ever meet and get to know in this industry that is great, I will profess my love of great people forever.
And you and I talk about it. I just love the idea of, I don't know when it'll happen, all of us being successful and being able to work together, kind of like Adam Sandler and his crew.
Oh, yeah.
I love the fact that's a dream, right?
Mm-hmm. So. That is my dream. Our dreams are paralleled and half intertwined.
Yes, they are, 100%.
So, Trenton, will you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, please find me on @Trenton Comedy on same thing on everything, @Trenton Comedy, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Also, Natasha noticed, she said that Father's Day podcast is you can always download an episode on iTunes, and that's it. I got so many shows coming up. It doesn't even matter because. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just follow him on social media and you'll get all the lowdowns. And same with myself. I am at NPH Comedy. The podcast is at Future Role Model, or on Twitter, Role Model Pod. Do people still tweet? And the podcast network is at Comedy Pop-Up or at CPU Podcasts. Sorry. And yeah, everybody's just killing it. Keep following the network. Support all the comics on it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Trenton. I fucking love you. I hope everybody follows you. Every single person listening, follow him, please. And Future Model out.